Hello, everybody. I'm Vasi Sarandopoulou from AntiLoneliness, your trusted psychologist. Today, I have a special guest with me, Audrey Dickinson. She is a holistic nutritional therapist and food enthusiast, fascinated by the intricacies of the female body. She specializes in hormone and reproductive health, supporting women to nourish themselves using natural foods, love, and self-care. To be honest, I meet a lot of women in my practice who come to couples therapist or relationship counseling, and many of them are struggling with infertility issues. And not only women, but also men. And I know how emotionally challenging this can be for themselves, but also for the relationship. And even though I'm the expert in handling the stresses and the grief of such moments, I'm deeply interested in hearing another expert coming from the more body oriented approach. I'm very happy that I have you here today, Audrey. Thank you so much. Please, the floor is yours. Can you please tell me a few things about you, what you do, where do you come from? Even though we will understand it when you start talking, but where do you come from? Where is your practice located? And yeah, what is a typical day of yours?
Hi, Vasi. Thanks so much for having me here today. As you said, my accent can give me away immediately of where I'm from, and I will have to be very mindful to speak slower and clearer to be understood. Yes, I'm from Scotland. I left Scotland 20 years ago now and
Oh,
still have this very strong accent. I've been living now in The Hague, Den Haag, for 11 years. And I have my own nutrition practice here, nutritional therapy practice here in Den Haag. And I've just moved into a really nice, lovely new office in the Tauro building. So that is my location from now on. And there, actually, I have started to collaborate with other therapists where we share this office space together. So I'm actually sharing with a lady called Sandra Delgado, who's a homeopath, and Deborah Craig, who is a physiotherapist.
yeah. The power of collaboration, eh? Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I said, it's a dream of mine for some time now is to work alongside other therapists to really deliver that your own health team to really get you to a place of wellness.
Yes, yes,
Um,
absolutely. Is this something that you were always passionate about?
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Before studying nutritional therapy, I was a chef
Mm,
working and living abroad for 20, no, maybe 15 years in different countries. So food was always my passion. It was always where I could be creative. I could learn about different cuisines. And I suppose then getting to a point in my life, a stage in my life where I wanted to start my own family. And that's when I discovered that I actually had some fertility issues myself.
yeah.
So from that point, I really wanted to delve deeper as to what does that mean. Had to understand what is unexplained infertility. So that took me on my quest to really learn about the body, nutrition, how we can actually take control of how we can heal ourselves to some extent,
Yeah.
and wanted to learn a lot more about that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they say that the best healers are those that they have experienced the pain themselves.
I think that's true. You
Yeah.
understand the pain and the struggle and yeah, the trauma that comes with that and how that can impact our wellness for
Yeah.
many years actually, how you can hold that locked inside of yourself. Yeah.
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 Fantastic. So, one of your areas of focus is supporting couples in their fertility journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's
can you
correct.
tell me a few things about infertility from your own experience? Like, what kind of types of infertility have you encountered? Or from your experience, where is it coming from? Because I know
Yes.
that there can be some obvious reasons, but some non obvious ones as well.
Yes, I see quite a range of clients who have many different inflammatory problems that may be resulting in their infertility. Sometimes they're not aware of these um, autoimmune, maybe possibly conditions, or the likes of polycystic ovary syndrome. Premature ovarian failure is actually something I see a lot of in many younger ladies, especially in the ages of 30 to 35-year-old ladies. I see ladies who have struggled with different types of eating disorders possibly in the past, and that is now impacting their fertility. Endometriosis, but also we have at the moment many issues with males with the sperm quality, and that can be a lot of different factors contributing to that, whether that was childhood illnesses that may impact the sperm quality. It could be stress that they're under at the moment in the modern day world we're living in. Sperm quality is really declining over the last 20 years, really by 40% of males have an issue with sperm quality, which is of course impacting the motility of the sperm, the morphology, so the shape of the sperm. Maybe also some issues relating to vaginal health that's impacting the sperm's ability to reach their ovum, to reach the egg. So there are many different explanations possibly for infertility, but there's also unexplained infertility.
Before you go to the unexplained infertility, because you were talking about all these, and in my head, for some of them, I could understand the connection, but there were some of them that I'm hearing for the first time. For example, when you say that women with eating disorders, they may encounter infertility problems. Can you tell me more about that connection? Because I haven't heard about that.
Sure. So many ladies who possibly disordered eating, where maybe they're controlling their carb intake when they're younger, they're controlling their protein intake, or there's lack of protein. So these are really the building blocks of our follicles to then build up, to then create our eggs. Of course, we are born with millions of eggs when we are born, and as we get older, we need to keep up, we need to maintain the quality of these follicles. Because we're denying ourselves of certain nutrients, it can lead into then, which can also have an impact into other body systems, not only the production of the hormones and the quality of our eggs, but also the likes of our thyroid that's connected also to how we produce our hormones. Also on the other scale, we're maybe eating too much. We have a lot of saturated fats in the body that's really causing like an oxidative stress. So that also can impact how we mature our eggs.
Yeah. I get it. I'm connecting the dots now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because as you said, the body's this whole connecting system. So if we have, or we deny the body of nutrients in one area, we're denying nutrients to the whole body.
Of course.
So this is why some ladies later on, when they try to have a family, they possibly will have some issues. And what I do as a nutritional therapist is I help them to look for that underlying root problem. Focusing into functionally, how is the body functioning, and can I identify any issues through different testing that I provide?
Yeah. And I know that this is a question for later, because we are trying to follow like a flow, but I cannot help asking, is it possible to reverse that? If we know that it's coming from a nutritional place, and if we change our nutrition, is it possible to reverse that infertility?
Oh, yes, it is possible, but it's not only nutrition that will help you do that. There are also other factors you have to take into consideration. Nutrition is a part in that wheel, the cog in the wheel, and we can do many things by changing the way we eat, what we eat, and how we eat our food, when we eat our food. Absolutely. There's a lot that we can do. Yeah.
All right. Now, about what you said about the unexplained infertility. That's a very mysterious word. And I know the psychological infertility. I know how many ways there are so that we can block our fertility, but not in a biological way, but in a psychological way.
Sure.
But I want to hear your perspective.
Yeah. So again, unexplained infertility, it's an awful diagnosis to be given, because it leaves you with what does that mean? Why?
Yeah.
And I work with people who have tried changing many things in the diet. They have tried to incorporate exercise. But the missing key thing here, I think, certainly from my own experience, is that underlying stress and how stress really impacts
Yeah.
the body, how we're constantly in this fight or flight, and how that is actually the body's using the vital building blocks to keep us on that path of running away from the danger all the time, that we're not allowing the body to actually do its thing and providing the likes of cortisol, as we talk about, that's on this fight or flight running away. How does that then connect into the production of the hormones itself? I think it's a lot to do with giving ourselves the permission to slow down, to really stand still and look at, okay, what am I doing with my life right now that's possibly you've never even thought about before, that could be preventing me from having a healthy conception? Maybe that's trauma from many years, or that's locked in ancestral trauma that's been passed down that you've never really dealt with or understood. Working with someone the likes of yourself to tap into that, to find the blockages that are preventing me from becoming pregnant. Maybe it's going back to my own self as well. I was an expat, I was flying around the world. What detriment that has onto the body, of that constant running from pillar to post. And you think that you're young, your vitality, you can manage, juggle many things in your life at the same time. But in actual fact, that's not really true. That's not the case.
No, no.
So even the likes of possibly childhood illnesses, maybe there's something still underlying from that that's actually getting in the way of that conception as well. So
Yeah.
there's so many different, it's really hard to pinpoint one thing, because it's
Of
not
course.
never one
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And as you said, it's difficult even to pinpoint where the stress is coming from. Because as
Yes,
you said, maybe it's coming from another generation, a previous generation. And you
absolutely.
reminded me of a client who was telling me that she was struggling not only with infertility, but also with the idea whether she wants to have children. So she was, I want, I don't want, I want, I don't want, all the time on this limbo, like, I don't know if I want children. And when she started exploring her past, she found out that her grandmother, yes, her grandmother has taken her own life when she had already just given birth to her first child, because she
Wow.
had postpartum depression. So there was this trauma
Yeah.
around having kids and what it means and all the stress that a kid bears, that she was carrying with her. And she resonated so much with that when she discovered that. And she realized that there was something about me feeling stressed, but I couldn't pinpoint it where it's coming
Yeah.
from. It was so heavy. It was not about my day-to-day life. It was so heavy, and I
Yes.
couldn't explain it. So for her, it was so important to connect with her roots and find where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's right. And just when you mentioned that, when we consider when your grandmother is pregnant with your mother, is at that point creating you. So your fetus is already creating their own eggs and their own follicles. So even just to think about the mental health of the grandmother, even before bearing her child, and how we think about negative energy, negative thoughts, and what that
Yeah.
creates within the body itself, which I always find really fascinating. And I don't think people really put that picture in their mind of you, where you were being created when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, and that in itself is like, what? You're producing your
You're
own eggs.
carrying cells of trauma and
Exactly.
grief
Yeah.
in
And
your
grief.
DNA before you're born.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Your DNA is already impacted by this even before you're born.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and what I find very superficial on the other side is that you go to your gynecologist and they diagnose you with infertility. And the best tip, some of them, not all of them, there are some of them that they're very supportive, but the best tip that some of them are giving you is, oh, you're too stressed. Try to be less stressed. Which
Yes.
is so superficial. What
So
do you think
superficial.
that you said something important to me now? Because the way you said it and what you said is so vague, so
Yeah.
abstract that I'm
Yes.
experiencing more stress than before.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And another thing I also see when we're talking about just also genetics and how that can impact us and our fertility experience. Unfortunately, some of the conventional medicine doesn't really take that deep dive with their testing to see, is there a possible genetic problem here? Is it the fact that you maybe don't possess the correct enzymes to be able to open the doors of your cells to let in certain nutrients to then start creating that, building that egg in that follicle, from that follicle? This is another thing that maybe that's then put down to it's unexplained because it's just not been investigated further enough. And I kind of would relate to that myself, of thinking what I know now compared to when I was going through my fertility journey myself. Many of the things were never checked. Many of the things were never really investigated thoroughly to the functional level,
Exactly.
So
Yeah. That's why you need either a very good specialist that knows how to handle it in a holistic way,
yeah,
or a
yeah.
team of specialists.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's that one-stop shop because again, I see many, unfortunately, by the time I see a lot of my clients, they have gone through a journey of going down the medical route, hopping from therapist to therapist. And that alone is exhausting, is stressful.
Yeah.
Because when you have maybe an unexplained diagnosis, you just want to understand why I don't get this, why I can't be like every other woman who can bear a child and bring life into this world. I don't understand that. And that brings a lot of anger, resentment to the surface, doesn't it?
Of course.
Yeah.
And human brain, human mind doesn't like not being in control, doesn't like uncertainty. So
Yes.
that's why we want to know why. Where is it coming from?
Yes.
Even if I'm diagnosed with infertility, for example, it makes me feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more safe if I know where it's coming from,
Yes.
rather than we don't know.
We don't
It's
know.
very scary. It's very scary for human brains
Yeah.
to not
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's exactly right. If you had a reason, you can then move through your grief and finally
Yeah,
close that chapter
yeah,
and
yeah.
let it go and move on in some way. You found you have a plan B in life now. But when you're left hanging, it takes a long time to work through that. And I think for many people as well, they get to the point of feel just exhausted. So they give up. But sometimes when they give up, that's when they do fall pregnant. Is because
Yeah,
they let go of the stress that's attached to I'm not
exactly.
pregnant and I'm seeing all my friends, I see people in the street and it's, tearing me apart. And finally, when you find peace to say, okay, I can't do this to myself anymore, I see then many people fall pregnant.
Yeah. I see that a lot. I see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they forget. And I also hear many couples that they have tried IVF and they get pregnant through IVF because before they couldn't. But then when they have already one child and they're more calm and they don't, let's say, pursue this, we want to have children like right now, or what's the problem? And they calm down from this stress, then the second one comes in the natural way.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. It is really incredible.
Yeah.
Um, I also see as well with some of my clients, because I see a lot of expats, even just the notion of traveling around the world, that can be unsettling for some people. And they don't really feel that they have roots anywhere. So, again, going back to that, feeling a bit lost in the world, not really fitting into any culture, any society. And I've actually found some people who've decided to uproot themselves and go back to their home countries,
Mm.
that some of them through time fall pregnant because again it's like they have landed back to somewhere. It's the familiarity,
Yeah.
their roots, their history, the families there to support them, and they feel a unit again. That
It's
can
a
also,
feeling of safety, yeah, and
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they feel safe and they also get reconnected. How can you create a connection with another human being inside you if you don't feel connected with the environment around you? Like, it's the feeling of connection that is
Yeah,
missing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
all this creates a lot of inner conflicts. Do I belong here? Do I need to come back? So this, again,
yeah.
this A or B or A
Yes,
options all the time, thinking
all
about
the time.
options in our life is very stressful.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're right. Too many options, too many choices doesn't make it easy.
No. Also, I have noticed relationship issues play a
Yes,
big role. Part of me knows that I want to have a child with this person, but another part of me doesn't feel sure about that. So
yes,
again, this internal conflict that I don't know whether I want to be with this person. And maybe that's one of the psychological reasons why I'm blocking my fertility, why I'm blocking my
that's right.
receptor of the sperm.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there. I think sometimes we often don't listen to what's really in our heart, what our heart is telling us. It's like what our soul is trying to speak to us. And as you said as well, I've also dealt with couples who have gone down the IVF route, done many different IVFs and ICSI treatments, and maybe one individual decides for them that they're just exhausted and
Yeah,
mindfully, they're drained. They just want to stop with this whole nightmare, whereas the other partner wants to continue.
yeah,
So again, there's that conflict, isn't there?
of course.
And then again, the whole intimacy is then impacted because it just becomes a mechanical thing. And it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, timing, let's go. And all feelings of affection, intimacy, bonding as a couple goes out the window. And that
Of
again is
course.
a huge stress.
Of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's becoming very robotic.
Yeah, it's totally robotic.
Yeah.
Absolutely is. Yeah, yeah.
And eventually you don't recognize each other. You don't recognize the relationship that you had. It's only about having a child, and we have forgotten us. Me
Yes.
and you, me and my partner, we have forgotten that we are already a family. But we have
Yeah.
forgotten that. We think that we will only be a family if we have a child. And
It's
we,
not enough.
yeah,
We as a couple are not enough.
exactly.
And I
Exactly.
understand everyone's dream of wanting to create this beautiful life together and bring a baby into the world. But for some people, that's just not the path or the direction that life has for you. And it's a harsh thing to discuss with some people as well, I think, is have you considered your plan B? Is there a plan B if things didn't work? But I think to continuously ignore the elephants in the room
Mm. Mm-hmm.
doesn't help.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where I always suggest to every couple I work with or every individual, do you have someone that you can work through all this whole piece with, that you can start to peel the onion and start to look at what's really underneath there? And that's not easy to do on your own.
No.
No.
And it's so important what you're saying, that it's a harsh truth, but for some women, for some couples, this is not what is on their cards, let's say.
No.
And somehow we believe, and society makes us believe that, because there are not so many conversations as the one that we have today. Society
No.
makes us believe that we are the very rare exception, but this is not the case. There are thousands, like hundreds of thousands of women
Yes.
that they are struggling with infertility. And for
Hundreds of
many,
thousands.
many out there, this is not their path.
Yes.
But no, we think that we are like the very rare exception to the rule.
That's right.
Everybody gets to have children, but
Yeah.
us.
No, I think it's 1 in 7 couples now that are struggling with
Wow.
infertility.
Wow.
Yeah.
One
Worldwide.
in seven.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially hard, again, speaking because I work with expats and looking at the different cultural beliefs as well, where to not bear a child is just not even accepted. It's why, and the pressure does fall, unfortunately, onto the woman in a lot of cultures. And she's blamed for being abnormal or shunned in a lot of ways, rejected from family. So it's such a massive pressure, actually. The world that we live in is, and the environments that we live in all over the world, is responsible for a lot of infertility reasons. So to carry that burden is very hard.
It
Yeah.
is. It
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
especially the fact that not only society, but also our own family
Yes.
is putting a lot of pressure by, as you said, considering women as the main responsible for any infertility issues. Also, it's in some cultures, it's very important that you have children.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, when you're sharing that challenge with your parents, that they may say, do whatever it takes, we will pay, we will
Yes.
support you, we will pay money, you can have children. But then they're not seeing the struggle, the emotional, the psychological struggle. They push even more, do whatever it takes so that
Yeah.
you can have children, as if you're useless if you don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've had clients where they have said to me that living as an expat keeps them guarded and safe from the comments and the expectation of
Yeah,
family.
yeah,
And they don't
exactly.
want to go back to their own country
Yeah,
at this point until they can find the strength to stand up for themselves, to discover who they are outside of their family, outside of their country and culture, but who are they as a human being, and how can they manage to protect themselves when they go back from the verbal abuse that they will receive. And that's so sad.
it
That's
is.
really sad.
It is. It is.
Um,
I did a post like during the holiday days where I was talking about boundaries at family dinners, because you have these indiscreet comments. Oh, when are you going to have children? When are you going to get married? From people that you don't actually see that they care. They're just asking these questions because they're feeling entitled to ask these questions. But this is, for some people, this is first of all personal, but also this can be painful. How can we allow this to continue? This is my personal struggle. I don't allow this to be discussed on the family dinner, on the Christmas dinner, or whatever situation
yeah.
family. My
Mm,
situation is not a topic for the family discussion
yeah.
unless you really care about me and you want to support me on what I consider as support, which is the psychological support, the emotional support, the authentic care that you
Yeah.
want to show to me, not pressuring me about what you think is important, because we seem to have different values here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Boundaries, this is something that we are learning this generation, and we are trying to educate the previous generation.
Yeah. That's
This
right.
is not okay. This is not okay when you're telling me when are you going to have children.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's to have the courage, because some people know that the family could disown them for standing up for their own beliefs. And that's something that must be extremely challenging.
yeah, yeah, it is. It is. So, what is the journey, the psychological journey that a couple goes through when they are dealing with infertility? Because we mentioned some part of this journey, which is the insecurity, the stress, the grief when they discover that there's nothing that they can do. So, from your experience, how do you see that?
So we're looking then really about looking at your plan B. What is, if I'm not to become a mother or father,
Mhm.
what is my place in the world? What do I have to offer? Certainly for my own self, I could, sorry that I would go back to my own self because I had a personal experience, and this is for what I found. I had to find, if I'm not to be a mother, how else can I contribute to the world, but within the role of maybe someone who supports others, someone, it's not that I'm the mother figure, but I'm there to try to coach people to take a step inside themselves, start to really take ownership of everything that's happening in my life. And I wanted to then pour myself into something that, as I said, I could educate myself in something that could contribute to other people's experiences. Now, whether that can be different for everybody,
Yeah.
but to find also, to start to begin to think of what else what is my purpose other than to be a mother or father? We start to
Exactly.
look outside of that, and that in itself takes time. It takes
Yeah.
time, and it takes a lot of coaching and support and from your family, but also, what else do I want to learn? I'm not only here on this planet just to fill that role. I'm here for other reasons.
Yeah.
And it's searching what is it for you that lights you up, that switches on your buttons and that you can be really passionate about and
Gives you meaning.
gives you total meaning. And everybody
Yeah.
has that. It's sometimes just difficult to, what is it? And it doesn't happen overnight that you decide, oh, that's what it is. I'm now, because I'm not a mother or father, I'm now this other person. It's time of working through that and trying things, putting yourself out there, talking to people, see where you can bring value in the world.
Yeah, exactly. This is fantastic what you're saying. It's a process, it's a journey.
It's totally that. Yeah.
And it involves sometimes an emotional roller coaster because of course you're angry with what
Yes.
has happened to you. You are desperate, you're hopeless, you are also feeling confused. All these things are happening. You're also grieving because
Yes.
a big dream of yours is not going to be fulfilled, at least within your knowledge, at least from what we can predict in the future, which is very little. But you deciding to put a closure to that so that you can gain some mental inner peace.
Yes.
um, so this is a journey that doesn't happen overnight. It
No.
requires a lot of effort. There's a
Yeah.
lot of ebbs and flows, and then sometimes we go back to what we wanted, and it goes really slowly until we
Yes.
settle, until we find ourselves. This is the journey. And
Yeah. Yeah. I find it's a journey, exactly that.
yeah,
Since I was a child, I always thought, because I saw everybody else around me, okay, you get older, you get married, you have a child, you have a family, then you're a mother, you're busy looking after your children. None of that happened.
yeah, yeah.
So you can imagine it's like, whoa, so what the hell? What is meant to happen now?
How do I fill my life now? The gap that it was supposed to be filled with a child. What do I do then?
What do I
How
do?
do I gain joy in my life?
Yeah.
Since I was hoping that a child would bring joy to my life, how do I bring that to my life myself now? What is
Yeah.
the plan from now on? Because I cannot mourn for the rest of my life.
No.
And as we know from grief, there will always be a part of grief present in our life because this was something very important to us. We
Sure.
will always feel a little bit sad when we
Sure.
think about that. But when we fill our life with new things, when the grief remains the same, but we expand our life with other people, other experiences, other important moments, then the grieving moment, the grieving part is still there, but not so heavy.
Yeah, the grieving part becomes smaller. It definitely does.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone has their own time to work through that, and
Yeah.
whatever length of time, whether that is years, whatever. For myself, I literally shredded a lot of things last week that were related to that point in my life, and that was 7 years ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's, for me, it was a slowly letting go piece by piece because I was beginning to find a joy and purpose in something else that became much more important. Now, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And it's happening exactly as you say, piece by piece. It's not like an overnight change. It's
no,
piece by piece, and we are allowing ourselves to take it slowly. There's nobody to pressure us. No.
no, no, no. It's in your time, only in
Yeah.
your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, how is nutrition helping with fertility? If we go back into
sure.
yes, it can be reversed. Let's go back to this scenario. How
Yeah,
can nutrition play a role in fertility?
yeah. When we really still touch on the subject of the stress,
Hmm.
yeah, we look at that. And if we can imagine when we're under stress, let's start with just by the way that we eat our food when we're stressed.
Hmm.
This is a very simple thing. When I speak to people about this, they think, how can that have such an impact? But in actual fact, if you imagine how stressed you are, you're running around in your car, you're going from work, you are doing whatever you're doing in a really automatic pilot manner. That
Yeah.
also means that you're guzzling down your food without actually being conscious of that.
Mm.
When I look at the body and when I'm thinking about the digestive tract, I'm really looking at the upper digestion and the lower digestion. And the upper digestion really brings into play the way that you actually consume your food. If you're swallowing your food, you're literally inhaling your food.
Yeah.
You're doing your body absolutely no justice from the very beginning. So all of the fabulous nutrients that are needed to send messages to cells, hormones, building blocks to mature an egg, you've completely missed a chance there because you are eating so fast that your body's not able to take in the nutrients or break down the food to
Oh,
extract the
wow.
nutrients.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
thing, and that's the
Yeah.
most crucial step. Mindlessly eating means that one, you're again not giving your brain time to even recognize you've got food in your stomach and you're overeating for one. All of that's the stages before digestion. It's called cephalic digestion. This is when we are thinking about food. We're imagining what we're cooking for dinner that night. We're allowing the saliva and the juices to be activated in the mouth. All of the enzymes sending messages. That's so important.
Yeah.
That is so important. So when you're
Yeah.
someone who's bought a convenience meal and you've came home and stuck it in the microwave, you've completely missed that step almost. You haven't given the body time to say, there's lots of lovely nutrients coming my way, and
Yeah.
I'm preparing myself for that to happen. That's not happened
No,
the majority of the time.
of course. You're so right.
So there's one major thing, and it's something I try to really talk very deeply about with my clients to start with is when you're eating your meal, do you at any point sit back in your chair and just put your knife and fork down and appreciate what's actually in your mouth? So that's one big thing that we were
Yeah.
looking at.
Yeah. Very correct. Good.
And another thing to look at again is when you are eating so fast is the stress that you're bringing into actually the microbiome in your digestive tract. And that's the bacteria that live in the digestive tract.
Mm.
They're very sensitive, and things like stress, large pieces of food falling into the digestive tract that they then have a trouble to try to break down and ferment because you're actually feeding them. They're the ones who are responsible for your immunity, your overall health. And that then brings a lot of problems with, again, bad bacteria have the opportunity to then flourish in that environment.
Ah, okay.
The lower digestion is we've gone through the
Mm.
upper digestion and
Yeah.
a really fast pace,
Yeah.
and it's now landed into the lower digestive tract where, yeah, we are. I always look at them as being my babies. Funny enough, they're the ones who they look after me. I feed them. They look after me. They help my body to have a fabulous flow from the signaling from the brain down into the ovaries to produce your lovely healthy follicles and your egg production. Yeah.
Hmm. And are there some foods that they help us with the good bacteria and some
Yes,
foods that they produce more bad bacteria?
absolutely.
Ah,
So we all of the rainbow diet, when we look at the Mediterranean diet, all our lovely essential fats, brightly coloured vegetables, lots of complex carbs, which are your vegetables and fibre, they are feeding the microbiome, and the microbiome are producing all of these great vitamins and short chain fatty acids, what they're called. And that helps to just reduce the inflammation within the body.
mm,
When you're feeding
mm,
the microbiome things like too much unhealthy fats, foods that are actually refined so much that they are actually having an impact on the blood sugar balance, but also there's no food really there for the microbiome to feed off of because it's been refined so much. The
yeah.
fiber's not really there to feed the microbiome.
Ah,
And
ah,
also going back to the whole digestion in the mouth, when food's really refined, we need that we need the fibers to have that kind of mastication. So we're breaking down fibers in the mouth. That's stimulating all those enzymes and then therefore helping with the microbiome and feeding the microbiome later down the digestive tract.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Very interesting and very insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love to paint a picture for people because I think if you have an image of your microbiome in your head of what that looks like, that can really help you to understand why it's so
And
important.
absolutely, absolutely. And from a psychological perspective, it gives me hope and the sense of control when you
Yes,
say something like that. Remember that we said before that the human brain doesn't like uncertainty and the loss of control. So when you say something like that, I feel again, I can control, I can do something. Because when you say we don't know where it's coming from, I don't know what to do. I feel very out of control. I feel desperate, hopeless, helpless.
yes,
But when you say, let's try this, when you do this, then you can have more good bacteria. When you do
yes,
this, you have more bad bacteria. I am educating myself, but at the same time, I feel hopeful again. I
yeah.
feel that I can play a role in this.
You can absolutely play a role in that. Yep, you can do so much for your own self. Yeah, and to understand the mechanics of it all, you can take ownership and you
Yeah,
can be, yeah, totally in control of your health outcomes to a big extent. And
yeah.
yeah, so that does
Is-
give us hope. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. I have also heard that alcohol hinders fertility. Is this true?
Alcohol can have a really big impact on your fertility. One of the reasons, though, alcohol can impact your fertility is because of actually the histamine within the alcohol. So, histamine and estrogen play a role together, they work alongside each other. So, I'm just giving you one example,
Yeah.
especially for us women. Estrogen is, I see a lot of women who have an increased estrogen. Some are calling that an estrogen dominance. And because of the role of estrogen stimulates histamine, and too much histamine stimulates estrogen, we can find ourselves in a situation when we're drinking too much alcohol, we're continuously increasing that histamine within the body. Therefore, we're increasing the estrogen, which we might already have had in a dominant situation.
Mm,
So, alcohol, that's one of the reasons alcohol can impact fertility, is because if our estrogen's too high, we
yeah.
possibly then have an impact on our progesterone. And it's our progesterone that helps to maintain the sac or the corpus luteum, as it's known, that holds the embryo and plants itself into.
Yeah.
So that's one reason that estrogen can really, alcohol can really impact our fertility. Also, just the oxidative damage that alcohol brings into the body. And oxidative stress is something that's naturally happening in the body anyway, through just the different chemical reactions in the body. But when you're bringing in a lot of alcohol, it's increasing this oxidative stress, which causes then damage. And if you're not eating enough antioxidants to actually reduce the oxidative stress, then that can become absolutely an issue for our sperm quality as well as our egg
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah. So it's like a vicious circle.
It's a
It's like
vicious
a
circle.
domino effect.
Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
what the whole body systems work. It's a
Yeah.
complete domino effect. If one thing happens in one area, it's a good chance it's going to knock out all of the other systems of the body that help all to sing synchronicity the whole time.
Yeah. So in case of alcohol, in case a couple is trying to boost their fertility levels again, does
Yes.
it mean alcohol in moderation or abstain from alcohol?
Yes, I know. I'm someone who really promotes 80% good, 20% rule.
Yeah.
However, if someone or a couple have been trying and they've gone through numerous IVFs and ICSI treatments, and alcohol is a no-no for a period of time.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
is really a commitment by both individuals to really support each other and say, okay, this is what we want to try and achieve. We're going to do the best that we possibly can to reach our goals. And if we can take control of that ourselves by eliminating alcohol and other foods, then I think it's worth it. And I think
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
definitely an important thing to consider. Definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And entering this journey of reversing infertility to fertility, we know that it takes a lot of time,
Oh, yeah.
but we need to make this time worth it. We need to come in this with an open mind, with an
Yeah.
open heart, not with resentment. Look what you made me do, or
No,
when is this going to finish? Huffing and puffing, because this is going to be a lot of suffering in there. We need to enter it with a
we
full
do.
heart and open heart
Oh,
and
yes.
kindness and support for each other.
Yeah, that's really lovely what you've just said there, because it's true. It's really, it's not a pill you can take and it'll change overnight, never
Yeah.
will be. It really is a journey. It's an absolute journey of both of you digging deep inside yourself, being kind to yourself, being honest with each other. And yeah, it's something that I often say to my clients. We'll start with 3 months, but we will often extend into 6 months, even up into a year,
Mm.
until we see change in the body.
Yeah.
So it takes baby steps, it's time, it's looking at all of these different aspects of your life and trying to bring a kind of equilibrium amongst them all, this balance and harmony together. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. And it's a
absolutely.
commitment
Commitment.
of I can choose in a year from now to be in the same painful place and
Yes,
be still hurt and be still hopeless and helpless.
yes,
Or I can choose to spend this year by committing to this journey, by trying to change my nutrition, by exploring with my partner what are the conflicts within each one of us, but also in the relationship. I can work on all these so many levels.
yeah,
And in a year from now, if it means that I'm going to have a different relationship or I'm going to be with one more member in my family,
yeah,
that's totally worth it. Or I will
absolutely.
be more content and joyful with the life that I have,
The life that you
then
have. Yes,
it's totally worth it.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So since we're running out of time,
Yes.
I want to ask you to give us your top 3 tips from what we have discussed today. But before you do that, please tell us where people can find you, because your knowledge about infertility and how body can reverse infertility to fertility or support us when we're going through challenging moments, your knowledge is abysmal. So I'm sure that people can really benefit from talking to you. So please
Yes.
let us know where they can find you.
Yes, sure. So my you can find me on social media. You can Facebook and Instagram. It's Audrey
Mhm.
Dickinson Nutrition.
Okay.
And my company is called Nourish and Flourish Nutrition. You can find my website details below the screen here.
Mhm.
And you can drop me an email at any time for a discovery call for 20 minutes. In that 20 minutes, I discuss how I work, how I can help you. As I mentioned before, I have just started collaborating with other people. So that's a really exciting thing that we're putting together to look at all of the different aspects of your life and how we can be that health team for you. So, yeah, you can reach out to me by email and you can give me a call anytime to set up a chat.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
yeah,
So if you want to find Audrey Dickinson, you can find her on social media, but also you can get all this information and contact form at www.nourishandflourish.com. And there
okay.
you can find here all the details about her services, about her knowledge, and some very interesting blog articles that you are posting. And your newsletter is also so
Yeah,
rich in content, useful content. So you can find it
yeah,
there. And also you can book in for a free 20-minute discovery call with Audrey. So now
yes,
your tips so that we can wrap it up.
yes, sure. So three things that I think that are really important. Again, going back to consider the microbiome. Okay, everything at the end does come down to gut health. Gut health will always play a role in whatever health issue that you have. So looking after a microbiome is essential. And that is really feeding them with all of the fibrous, colourful vegetables which have been steamed rather than boiled in water and nutrients are all washed down your sink. So steaming vegetables, keeping them lovely and crunchy and colourful and bright. I would also suggest things like broccoli sprouts. This is a tip. Broccoli sprouts are full of something called sulforaphane, which is essential and an essential component that your liver needs to detoxify your estrogen. Keeping our estrogen in check is a very important thing for us women.
Okay.
So really adding this into the diet, getting that in there every day if you can. You can sprout your own broccoli sprouts. It's very simple. You go online, you buy the organic seeds yourself, and you buy a sprouting jar, and you can do it at home. Within 3 or 4 days, you have your own sprouts, and you put them on top of your stir fries, your salads, in your sandwiches. I have them everywhere. They are like bombs of nutrients, and they are very essential, again, to detoxify estrogen. So that's your cooking methods, the way you're cooking, the estrogen clearance, to keep that lovely balance within the whole cycle, menstrual cycle, but also for men to control their testosterone levels, to have a healthy testosterone levels, estrogen levels, and the microbiome. Do not forget the microbiome. It is your lifeline to great health, overall health, and yeah, that's just keeping them smiling, keeping them happy. And the last thing, eating mindfully.
Yeah, exactly.
Do not forget to eat your meal, enjoying your meal, and staying away from, processed foods that have become so refined that you literally are just swallowing sugar.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because enjoying your food and eating it mindfully means that you're getting multiple times of nutrients instead of just, eating it, swallowing it down. Yeah.
You could be eating the healthiest of food, but if you don't actually chew it correctly, you're wasting your time.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I feel so wise talking to you. I've learned so many things today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. Many women that they are following us today. And of course, what you said apply to men, but I know that you specialize in supporting women, especially. And they will find this discussion really useful. And I'm sure that they're keeping notes all the time during this interview with things that they can implement, things that they can do today even.
Yes.
And they can have results immediately. Thank you so much. I'm so honored for having you here. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes. Have a nice day. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching this interview today. And you can find all information about anti-loneliness, but also about Nourish and Flourish. Yes, from Audrey Dickinson. You can find them on the description of this interview, and you can directly contact her.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, everybody. Take good care of yourselves.